There are television moments that not only shock but also shake up social media entirely. And tonight, we will witness a true shock, not from a scandal, but from a fiery confrontation live on air. Trevor Noah, once hailed as a master satirist, who tore apart Elon Musk and Donald Trump with sharp-witted jokes, this time became the target of a fierce counterattack from Karoline Leavitt, a political spokesperson known for her uncompromising style and cannon-like rhetoric. While Trevor thought he was controlling the game as usual, tossing questions, mocking his opponent with a smirk, Karoline stormed in like a hurricane. No dodging, no defending, she charged straight into the heart of the matter, exposing bias, striking at the weaknesses in Trevor's arguments, and leaving him speechless. The audience was stunned. Social media exploded. It seemed Trevor was the one holding the stage, lighting the fire and laughing atop the ashes. But this time, he was the one burned in the fierce storm that Karoline Leavitt brought. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. The studio atmosphere froze, like a still painting before a storm. The audience sat silently, their eyes gleaming with anticipation, like stars lost in the night. The stage lights dimmed, the murmurs faded. A calm, familiar voice rang out. The seasoned host of the show, with a steady demeanor and serious gaze, stepped to the center of the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we will witness a dialogue between two opposing perspectives, two pulses of modern America. On one side is Karoline Leavitt, White House press secretary, a powerful voice for America First policies, representing a bold and determined new generation. Facing her is Trevor Noah, comedian, host of The Daily Show, who uses laughter to question power and convey social messages. Two personalities, two ideals, one stage. Applause erupted, genuine this time, as if to shake off the initial awkwardness. Trevor Noah stood up, still confident, the microphone glinting under the lights. He leaned forward, a sly half-smile on his face. Thank you, his voice rang out, smooth like a nighttime jazz tune. I'm Trevor Noah. You might know me from The Daily Show, where I use laughter to strip bare empty promises. I'm not a politician, nor a spokesperson. I'm just a storyteller. And tonight, I'm telling the story of a government turning truth into slogans. He turned to Karoline, his smile sharp as a razor. Missing was, Leavitt, I know you're proud to be Trump's spokesperson. And I'm proud too, for making people like him squirm right on stage. If you think you can defend those policies against me, well, I'm very ready for an interesting evening. The audience roared with laughter, a few whistles piercing the air. But when Noah's eyes landed on Leavitt, they were no longer humorous, they were calculated. Karoline Leavitt stood up, no blinking, no smiling, just a chilling, precise calm. She gripped the microphone like a warrior drawing a sword. Good evening, everyone. I'm Karoline Leavitt, and I'm not here to do comedy, Trevor. Her voice cut through like a blade, firm, not a beat wasted. I've faced the toughest press briefings with journalists trying to twist every word. I don't need stage lights, I need the truth, and I brought it tonight. She stepped forward, eyes locked on Trevor. You represent Hollywood. I represent the workers in Ohio, the single mothers in Texas, the people abandoned by the class you call elite. You want to make them laugh, fine, but I'll make them think. And tonight, I won't let you trade truth for laughter. Your game is over, Trevor. The audience erupted, clapping, cheering, chairs shifting in excitement. Trevor smirked, trying to maintain his confidence, but his eyes seemed to be recalculating his entire strategy. Wow, Karoline, you really don't mess around, he said, his tone half joking, half cautious. She didn't respond. She just stared straight at him, with the look of someone who didn't come to debate, but to win. The room buzzed with anticipation. The audience sat upright, eyes glued to the stage where Trevor Noah and Karoline Leavitt were about to open fire. The host stepped to the center of the stage, the spotlight converging, his deep voice resonating with authority. He scanned the silent room, then began with the composure of a seasoned moderator. Ladies and gentlemen in the studio and watching nationwide, tonight we're not just witnessing a debate, we're participating in a vital democratic dialogue, where two opposing ideologies will be weighed before the public. With the participation of two figures shaping America's current political discourse, Ms. Karoline Leavitt, White House Press Secretary, and Mr. Trevor Noah, social commentator and host of The Daily Show. We will navigate the critical issues stirring the nation. He raised a finger, his voice clear, emphasizing each word. First, immigration policy, and the question of national security versus humanitarian concerns. Second, media and power, who is truly controlling the flow of information to the public. And finally, the economy and tariffs, the numbers, the policies, and what the people are feeling from them. He paused for a beat, his gaze sweeping over the two speakers eyeing each other like they were stepping onto a battlefield. We will begin with the first topic, immigration policy. What is Mr. Trevor Noah's perspective? The audience fell silent, as if holding their breath. The spotlight focused on Noah. Noah stood up, microphone glinting, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Thank you to the host and the amazing audience, he began, his voice smooth with a hint of mockery. Trump's immigration policy, an expensive opera. His tone sharpened, build $1 billion wall, deport millions of people. For what? The border still leaks like a sieve. Families torn apart, children living in cages, the economy struggling from a labor shortage. Karoline, you call that security. I call it failure. According to a Cato Institute study, the wall only reduced illegal crossings by 5%, but maintenance costs hundreds of millions annually. Do you have any data to justify it, or are you just repeating the America First slogan? Americans want practical solutions, not political theater. I'm here to ask questions, and I hope you have answers. Noah sat down, a confident smile on his face, the audience chuckling lightly, some clapping, but the tension remained taut as a bowstring. The host nodded, his expression neutral. Thank you, Mr. Noah. Ms. Leavitt, Mr. Noah argues that Trump's immigration policy is costly and ineffective. How do you respond? He turned to Leavitt, his voice calm, smoothly steering the focus. Leavitt grasped the microphone, sitting upright, her eyes locked on Noah. Her voice rang out, sharp as a blade. Trevor, you call our policy an opera. I call it responsibility to 330 million Americans. You want data? Here it is. The FBI reports 12% of murders in border states are linked to illegal immigration. The Department of Homeland Security records 350,000 illegal border crossings annually. Karoline tilted her head, her eyes glinting with icy precision. And with that, tons of fentanyl are smuggled in, causing over 70,000 drug overdose deaths. This isn't a joke, it's a barrier. Customs and Border Protection says areas with walls saw a 25% drop in crossings. Leavitt tightened her grip on the microphone, her voice steady as steel. The wall saves $1 billion in patrol costs annually. You talk about families? I've been to Yuma, met people who lost loved ones to crimes by immigrants. They don't need your sarcasm, they need safety. What's your plan to stop drugs and secure the border, or do you just stand on the Daily Show stage? Her words were like an indictment. The audience fell silent, then erupted in strong applause, some standing. Noah stood, brow furrowed, his voice striving for ease. Karoline, you brought a whole library of stats, but you're painting a distorted picture. Yes, there's crime, but most immigrants are workers, contributing 2% to GDP, for the Center for American Progress. Deporting them costs $315 billion, per ICE, and causes labor shortages in agriculture and construction. The wall, people cross it with tunnels, drones, even boats. I propose use surveillance technology, cameras, sensors, cheaper, more effective. Reform immigration, grant citizenship to 11 million undocumented people, like the DREAM Act. That's how you build America, not divide it. Do you agree mass deportations harm society? Noah looked to the audience, hoping to regain ground, but the applause was sparse. The host nodded. Mr. Noah proposes technology and reform, arguing deportations cause harm. Ms. Leavitt, Mr. Noah raises a question about social impact. How do you respond? He redirected, keeping the debate focused. Leavitt responded, her voice like a chilling stream. Trevor, you talk about technology and reform, but do you know the cost? A full border sensor system costs $20 billion, per the GAO, plus annual maintenance. The current wall cost $11 billion, and reduced crossings by 25% per CBP. Karoline Leavitt held the microphone, her eyes locked on Trevor Noah. She sat upright, her voice ringing out coldly. You say immigrants contribute 2% to GDP, but illegal immigration lowers American workers' wages by 1 to 3% per Harvard University. We don't deport indiscriminately. ICE prioritized 70,000 criminal immigrants arrested last year. She pressed on forcefully. You say social harm. What about the harm to American families when fentanyl kills 70,000 people? I've met them in Tucson, Trevor. They want law enforcement, not vague reforms. You propose the DREAM Act. It doesn't address crossings or drugs. If you don't have a concrete plan, don't criticize those protecting the nation. Her words were like a sword strike. The audience erupted in thunderous applause, many standing fully convinced. Noah gripped the microphone, his hand trembling slightly. Karoline, you're great with numbers, but you're ignoring the human side. Deportation isn't the only way. We need dialogue, international cooperation, not just walls and stats. He sat down, his voice weak. The audience's applause scattered. Leavitt's eyes were icy. Dialogue doesn't stop fentanyl, Trevor. Laws and action do. We're doing that while you just talk. The studio was still buzzing after the first round of debate, where Karoline Leavitt had left Trevor Noah reeling. The audience sat tensely, their eyes shifting between the two opponents, as if awaiting a decisive chess move. The host, with a dignified demeanor and a commanding voice, stepped to the center of the stage, his gaze serious. Ladies and gentlemen, in the first round, we witnessed Miss Karoline Leavitt showcase strength, with solid immigration policy data, while Mr. Trevor Noah brought arguments for reform and humanity. A heated debate, where each side defended their stance with clear passion. He paused for a beat, looking directly at the audience, then continued with the calm of a seasoned moderator. And now, we move to the second topic, media and power. In an era where information is transmitted rapidly, and can be easily influenced. He turned to Noah, his voice firm. Mr. Noah, do you believe the White House is manipulating information, or is the free press truly distorting the truth for its own agenda? Noah stood, microphone in hand, his eyes flashing with determination to regain the upper hand. Look at Trump's White House, Karoline. You're the press secretary, but what's your job? Polishing Trump's image, repeating untrue claims, like the election being stolen. According to Pew Research, 60% of Americans believe the White House under Trump regularly spreads misinformation. My Daily Show. We use satire to expose the truth, not cover it up. You say the free press distorts. I say the White House is the master manipulator, turning journalism into a propaganda tool. Do you have evidence the free press is biased, or is that just Trump's excuse to dodge accountability? Noah sat down, a triumphant smile on his face. The audience clapping lightly, some nodding, but the atmosphere remained heavy. Leavitt grasped the microphone, her demeanor composed, her eyes like a chess grandmaster calculating her move. Her voice rang out, clear and sharp. Trevor, you just called me someone who polishes Trump. I call you someone who distorts the truth for ratings. You want evidence of media bias? Here Gallup says 62% of Americans believe the press leans toward one political party. Leavitt looked straight at Noah, without a hint of hesitation. A Shorenstein Center report from Harvard found 80% of Trump coverage on CNN and NBC had a negative tone, compared to just 20% for his opponent. Your Daily Show? She raised an eyebrow, her voice cutting like a knife. You call it satire, I call it propaganda in disguise. Her words were like a lethal blow. The audience fell silent, but Leavitt didn't stop. She continued with a slight challenging smile. You've edited Trump's statements to make him look foolish, like the 2018 clean water clip, manipulated for laughs. I've faced media trying to distort the truth about Trump, from tax policy to COVID. She paused, her eyes never leaving Trevor, her tone slowing but still resolute. You say the White House manipulates. I ask, do you ever check sources before airing, or just chase laughs? Media like you owe Americans the truth, not a circus. Her statement was like a checkmate. The audience was silent, then erupted in strong applause, some standing, struck by the sharpness and conviction in her every word. Leavitt sat down, her eyes still fixed on Noah, as if she had won this round. Noah stood, his eyes betraying a hint of tension, but he tried to maintain a humorous facade, flashing a smile as if preparing for a verbal counterattack. He looked at Karoline, his voice light but laced with sarcasm. "Karoline, you're a data machine." He waved a hand casually. "But let's slow down a bit. The Daily Show is comedy, not news. We don't do news. We satirize to clarify the truth, not to deceive." He paused, gauging Leavitt's reaction before continuing with a touch of mockery. 80% negative coverage. That's because Trump gives the press material. False claims, like the storm will disappear about COVID. He emphasized, his voice growing sharper. According to PolitiFact, 70% of Trump's statements are fact-checked as false or misleading. Noah raised a hand, as if to underscore his point, his eyes scanning the audience, and he continued with confidence. "The press reports the truth, not bias, and about editing. That's the art of comedy, Karoline, not a crime." He flashed a slight smile, but his eyes challenged Leavitt, as if anticipating her response. Then he turned to the audience, his voice suddenly more serious. "I propose one thing. Instead of attacking the press, the White House should be more transparent. Do you agree Trump needs to be accountable for his words?" The audience was silent for a moment, then scattered applause broke out, as if weighing Noah's words. He stood there, hoping to score points against Leavitt, but still projecting confidence. Leavitt's voice cut through like a blade. "Trevor, you call satire art. I call it a weapon to distort. You say 70% of Trump's statements are false. PolitiFact has been criticized for bias. A George Mason University study found they scrutinize conservative politicians 30% more harshly. We hold daily press briefings, answering hundreds of questions, while you sit in a studio, cherry-picking clips for laughs. According to Pew, only 29% of Americans trust mainstream media. I've seen the press distort Trump's tax policy, turning middle-class tax cuts into gifts for the rich." She glanced across the room, each person feeling the weight of her words. "You want accountability? Start with yourself. Have you ever apologized for editing the truth? I represent Americans ignored by media like you. If you don't have solutions to build trust, don't criticize us." Her words were like a locked chess move. The audience erupted in thunderous applause, many standing completely convinced. Noah gripped the microphone, his hand slightly trembling. "But satire is free speech. If Trump were more transparent, we wouldn't need satire." He sat down, his voice weak, the audience's applause sparse. Leavitt responded, her eyes cold. "Free speech doesn't mean freedom to distort, Trevor. We're transparent. You just attack." The audience cheered, applause crashing like waves. As the audience was still reeling from the intense debate between Karoline Leavitt and Trevor Noah, spanning immigration to media, the host's voice rang out, commanding and controlled. "Ladies and gentlemen, in round 2, we saw Miss Leavitt dominate with arguments on media. And now, we move to another topic, the economy and tariffs. Mr. Noah, do you believe tariffs are a burden on the economy?" Noah stood, microphone in hand, his eyes flashing with determination. A confident smile masked slight unease after 2 rounds of being overwhelmed. "Trump's tariffs, an economic mistake, slapping 10% on imports. Who pays? Americans. The Congressional Budget Office says tariffs raise consumer prices 0.4%, adding $1,200 per household. Companies like Walmart pass costs to customers. Inflation spikes, the poor suffer most." Noah paused, looking to the audience, hoping for applause. Some nodded, but the response was weak. Leavitt grasped the microphone, her demeanor calm, her eyes sharp like an analyst's. She gave a slight confident smile. "Trevor, you call tariffs a mistake. They're a shield for workers," she said, her voice firm. "The Labor Department reports tariffs created 180,000 manufacturing jobs, from steel in Pittsburgh to cars in Detroit. You say prices rose 0.4%? That's lower than natural 2% inflation. Tariffs protect workers from cheap Chinese goods." The audience clapped. Leavitt sat upright, her eyes fixed on Noah. Noah furrowed his brow, gripping the microphone, his smile now slightly forced. "Karoline, you're great with numbers, but you're ignoring consumers," he countered, trying to keep his humor. Tariffs raise food and clothing prices. The National Retail Federation says they cost 50,000 retail jobs. I propose investing in green tech, training workers, ways to compete with China without hurting the poor. He sat down, eyes anxious. The audience's applause scattered. Leavitt responded instantly, her eyes like a blade. Trevor, you say train for green tech. The CBO estimates that costs $500 billion over 10 years, with no immediate jobs, she said. Her voice sharp. Tariffs, they protect 1.2 million manufacturing jobs, per the Commerce Department. You say prices rose, only 0.4%, and tariffs generate $70 billion in revenue, funding tax cuts for low-income households. She paused, her eyes challenging. The audience applauded strongly, some standing. Noah stood, running a hand through his hair, visibly pressured. Karoline, you only see manufacturing jobs, he said, his voice slightly shaky. But the Peterson Institute says tariffs cost 200,000 total jobs, due to higher production costs. Farmers lost $12 billion from China's retaliation, per the Agriculture Department. Tariffs are a burden, not a solution. He sat down, eyes uneasy, the applause faint. Leavitt smiled faintly, her eyes like an economist solving a puzzle. Trevor, you cite the Peterson Institute. But you forget tariffs forced China to negotiate, she said, her voice calm. China deal boosted agricultural exports by $20 billion, offsetting losses. I've met workers in Michigan, they need jobs today, not training a decade from now. What's your immediate solution? She sat down, her eyes icy. The audience roared with applause, many cheering. Noah stood, his hand trembling slightly, his smile gone. Karoline, but consumers are paying the price, he said, his voice weak. We need multilateral trade deals, not tariffs driving up inflation. He sat down, avoiding Leavitt's gaze, the audience's applause sparse. Leavitt's eyes didn't waver. Multilateral deals like TPP cost 2 million U.S. jobs, she said, her voice like a hammer. Tariffs protect workers now, Trevor. You're just offering theories. The audience cheered, applause crashing like a tidal wave. Karoline Leavitt continued to pressure Trevor Noah, from arguments on immigration and media to economic policy. The studio was silent, the audience tensely tracking every expression, every gesture between the two opponents. The atmosphere was like a chess game entering its decisive moves. The host, sensing the heat, interjected. Ladies and gentlemen, we've witnessed a series of sharp arguments from national borders to the role of media, from tariff policies to workers' rights. He scanned the room, his eyes gauging each person's reaction, then continued, Mr. Noah, you argue that Trump has divided the country with extreme rhetoric and policies. Meanwhile, Ms. Leavitt praises him as reigniting the America First spirit. The question isn't just who's right, but is Trump's legacy one of strength or division? Noah, microphone in hand, his eyes betraying a hint of desperation but still striving for confidence. He spoke, his voice trying to maintain a humorous edge. Trump's legacy, a global tragedy. He divided America, turned allies into enemies. Trump brags about the Abraham Accords, but he also destabilized NATO and emboldened China. According to Gallup, 65% of world leaders lost trust in the U.S. under Trump. He's a media star, not a leader. Karoline, what do you have to justify this chaos? Noah sat down, eyes anxious, the audience clapping lightly, some whispering. Leavitt grasped the microphone, her demeanor calm, her eyes alight with genuine emotion. She gave a slight smile, like a storyteller about to open her heart. Trevor, you call Trump a tragedy. He's the one who brought hope to forgotten Americans, she said, her voice warm but resolute. The Abraham Accords brought Middle East peace. The State Department confirms 4 Arab nations normalized ties with Israel. You say division? I've met workers in Wisconsin who call Trump their job saver. His legacy is giving Americans faith. The audience clapped. Leavitt sat upright, her eyes blazing. Noah furrowed his brow, gripping the microphone, his smile now gone. Karoline, you tell a touching story, but it's only one side, he countered, his voice slightly shaky. Trump isolated America. He withdrew from the Paris Agreement, weakening climate change efforts. According to Pew, 70% of Americans worry about our global standing. Trump is a symbol of division, not unity. Do you agree he damaged America's image? Leavitt's eyes burned like fire. Trevor, you say Trump isolated America. I say he put America first, she said. Her voice powerful. Withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. It saved taxpayers $500 billion, per the Treasury Department, and protected 1 million energy jobs. I've met miners in West Virginia. They thank Trump for keeping his promises. You worry about global image. Americans prioritize jobs, security. What do you have to help them? She paused, her eyes challenging. Noah stood, wiping his forehead, visibly pressured. But Trump isn't a hero, he said, his voice weakening. He alienated allies, destabilized the global economy. I propose international cooperation, building stronger alliances. That's leadership, not bragging on Twitter. He sat down, avoiding Leavitt's gaze, the applause faint. The host nodded. Mr. Noah calls for international cooperation, and argues Trump caused instability. Miss Leavitt, Mr. Noah proposes stronger alliances. How do you respond? He redirected, keeping the debate focused. Leavitt smiled faintly, her eyes brimming with emotion. Trevor, you say international cooperation, but who pays the price? Deals like TPP cost 2 million American jobs, she said, her voice like a mother protecting her family. Trump negotiated bilaterally, boosting exports to China by $20 billion, per the Commerce Department. I've met farmers in Iowa. They're proud Trump fought for them. You want alliances. Trump built peace through strength. What story do you have for Americans? She sat down, her eyes radiant. The audience erupted in thunderous applause, many cheering. Noah stood, gripping the microphone tightly, his shoulders trembling slightly. The familiar smile had vanished, replaced by a heavy gaze. His voice rang out, hoarse and defeated. He didn't inspire trust, he divided it. He sat down, eyes fixed on the floor, as if avoiding the silent reaction spreading through the room. A few scattered claps sounded, then faded into the tense air. Leavitt didn't blink. She stood slowly, microphone in hand like a proclamation. Her gaze unwavering, her voice steady, deep and rhythmic like the pulse of the political arena. Trump didn't divide Americans, Trevor, he awakened them. With action, not flowery words. You tell stories of fear, we build hope, and while you dwell on the impossible, we've done what no one dared. The studio now resembled a modern Roman Colosseum, where spotlights illuminated both victor and vanquished. Trevor Noah, once a symbol of wit and humor, sat silent, like a warrior exhausted. Across from him, Karoline Leavitt stood firm like a bronze statue, her eyes blazing as if stepping from a new page of history. The audience was silent, the air thick as if awaiting the final bell. The lights softened, converging on the center stage. The host, composed in an elegant black suit, stepped slowly into the light. His voice was low, resonating like a closing drumbeat. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just witnessed a debate not only fierce on policy, but profound on values, faith and national identity. Our two guests brought opposing perspectives, both rooted in a desire to shape America's future. He turned slightly toward the camera, his face betraying solemnity. The debate may end here, but the dialogue about America will continue. And if one thing is clear tonight, it's this: the voice representing the nation must come not only from cold reason, but also from a heart that empathizes and acts. As the stage lights of the American debate dimmed, the aftermath of the showdown between Karoline Leavitt and Trevor Noah not only left the audience stunned, but also triggered a seismic shift in American media. Leavitt turned the talk show into a battlefield of ideas, where truth triumphed over satire. Noah's collapse from panicked eyes to his final admission, "You win," became a symbol of humor's limits when faced with razor-sharp arguments. On social media platforms, reactions exploded post-show. A prominent journalist posted, "Leavitt just taught the media that satire can't replace truth." The post garnered tens of thousands of shares, with the hashtag #TruthOverSatire trending globally. Another user mocked Noah. He thought laughing was enough, but Leavitt turned the Daily Show into the joke. Memes went viral, from images of Noah shrinking in his chair to Leavitt blazing like a fire, shared millions of times. Noah tried to defend himself on X. "I wanted to bring unity, but maybe I underestimated my opponent." The post received only a few hundred likes, drowned out by critical comments. "Underestimated. You had no truth, Trevor." Noah's career plummeted, with The Daily Show viewership dropping 25%, per Nielsen. Many boycotted the show, calling him a failed satirist, a stain on his once storied career. Mainstream media was swept into the storm. Major outlets like the New York Times and Washington Post published analyses. Leavitt exposed the weaknesses of political satire. Shows like The Late Show and Last Week Tonight began adjusting, toning down mockery, to incorporate more data and real stories, inspired by Leavitt's use of FBI and Commerce Department figures. Producers held workshops on responsible media, inviting experts to discuss authentic storytelling like Leavitt's. A CNN editor admitted, "We relied too much on emotion. Leavitt reminded us truth is king." Leavitt, with her calm demeanor and fiery eyes, became a model for a new media. She was invited as a keynote speaker at conferences, where she emphasized, Americans don't need Hollywood scripts. They need data and real stories. Her words, like the fire she ignited, spread. Conservative YouTube channels, like The Daily Wire, produced videos analyzing Leavitt's victory, drawing millions of views. An ex-commentator wrote, "Leavitt didn't just beat Noah, she made the media kneel before truth." The showdown reshaped how American media operates, with Leavitt as the standard-bearer and Noah as a bitter lesson in complacency in an era craving truth. Karoline Leavitt, from the youngest White House press secretary to an undefeated political icon, left a legacy far beyond the spotlight of the American debate. Her victory over Trevor Noah was not just a war of words. It was a spark reigniting faith in the American dream, a reminder that a 27-year-old woman, armed with loyalty and truth, could transform a nation. Leavitt was hailed as the flag of the future. A college student posted, "Karoline makes me want to fight for my community, like she did for Iowa." The post garnered millions of views, with the hashtag #LeavittLegacy spreading across social media. Conservative organizations established Leavitt scholarships, funding students in political science, inspired by her journey from St. Anselm to Washington's Power Center. Trump, in an online event, declared Karoline embodies a great America, strong, loyal, unbeatable. His praise, posted on X, drew millions of interactions, cementing Leavitt's status as a new political star. Online forums, from Reddit to Gab, overflowed with posts calling her Ohio's flame, a symbol of resilience and hope. A Pew survey, released after the talk show, showed 68% of young voters viewed Leavitt as inspirational, compared to just 8% mentioning Noah, now fading into the shadows of defeat. Leavitt's lectures on truth and accountability, streamed on YouTube, amassing tens of millions of views, making her an icon for a new generation. A Texas teacher wrote on X, "I showed Leavitt's video to my students. She teaches them truth is stronger than anything." Schools began incorporating Leavitt's story into curricula. Commerce Department, $20 billion in exports, and personal narratives to defeat satire. Conservative women's groups held Learn from Leavitt workshops, encouraging young women to enter politics, with her as the model. Leavitt's legacy wasn't just her victory over Noah. It was proof that a young person, with data and loyalty, could topple media giants. As a new generation raised her flag, Leavitt stood firm like an eternal flame, lighting the way for those who believe in the power of truth and the American dream. She proved that politics isn't just a game for the powerful or famous. It's a stage for those who dare to stand, speak truth, and fight for the values they believe in. With Karoline Leavitt, the future isn't just hope, it's action. With every step, every decision, Leavitt isn't only building her political career, but also a lasting legacy, inspiring millions of young people worldwide. She has and continues to prove that, with determination and sincerity, one person can change the world. The story of the showdown between Karoline Leavitt and Trevor Noah on the American debate deeply reflects the fractures and aspirations in today's American society, where truth, faith, and personal stories clash with satire and global ideals. Leavitt, as White House press secretary, represented Americans who feel forgotten, Michigan workers, Iowa farmers, or Ohio mothers, whom she evoked through moving stories of jobs, farms, and hope restored by Trump. Her dominance, backed by data from the FBI and Commerce Department, showcased the power of blending emotion with practical arguments. In contrast, Noah, with his daily show satire, represented the media elite, but his collapse, from panicked eyes to admitting defeat, exposed the limits of humor without depth, as he failed to offer concrete solutions for immigration or the economy. The lesson for Americans today is truth and personal stories have the power to outshine media glitz. In a polarized society, where platforms like X amplify criticism, people must learn to listen and tell their own stories, as Leavitt did with mechanics or farmers. Don't rely solely on satire or theory, like Noah, but seek data and connect with the community. Stand up like Leavitt, for the values you believe in, and use truth to build bridges, not divisions. Subscribe to the channel to follow more epic debates like Leavitt's triumph over Noah, and thank you for joining us on the American Debate. See you in the next video, where truth continues to speak.